Hello, welcome back. My name is Christine Kuglin. I'm the director of the Truth in Accounting Project at the University of Denver, Daniels College of Business, and specifically in the School of Accountancy. In the previous video, I gave you a brief history of XBRL from the founding fathers, if you will, to an article that you can read on your own and explore the history of this programming language. But in this video, we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of what is XBRL. So the best thing to do to take a look at XBRL is to go to the sec.gov, www.sec.gov. And the Security and Exchange Commission is where publicly traded companies upload their public information, their financial reports, their quarterly, their annual, the 10K, the 10Qs, any other information such as major changes to their company between reporting dates, which are called 8Ks. And so that's where publicly traded companies are required to give the information that investors and creditors need so that they can make informed decisions concerning their investments. So once you get to the SEC.gov, what you're going to do then, if you're interested in a company, you're going to go to filings and you're going to look for Edgar and go ahead and click Edgar. So Edgar is the electronic data resource where you can easily search information about companies in which you want to invest. So once you get to the Edgar search and access, you're going to go ahead and go to company or fund name, and you can click there and you can pick a company that you want to search. So let's go ahead and pick one that a lot of people are always interested in, and that is Apple Computer. People are always interested in seeing Apple. So let's go ahead and take a look at Apple. And if you click Apple, you're going to come up with a screen that gives you all kinds of information about Apple Incorporated. It gives you the term that it trades on the NASDAQ stock exchange, AAPLE. It gives you a number of different filings, including the most recent filings. And if you will see here, the 10K is the annual report. This is the annual report required by publicly traded companies. There's the 8K, as I mentioned. This is for different types of information that can come between reporting dates. So we have that. You also have it over here, selected filings, the 10K, the 10Q, which are the quarterly reports. There's the 8K that gives you that type of information. So you can find a lot of different places of which to click and get information about a company. You also have up in this corner something called the classic version. So before I click on this, I'm going to take you up to the classic version. Now, this screen is relatively new. This is a new iteration of reporting required by the SEC for publicly traded companies. And in this screen, what we have, when we look at it, and I'll take you out there as well, we have where the entire financial documents, the entire report has now been coded with XBRL in something called inline XBRL. But prior to about 2019, there was a classic version of XBRL that was required for companies to use. And that's what we have here with the classic version. So let's go ahead and click on that and see what it looks like. So prior to just the last few years, if you went to the sec.gov and you searched a company, this is the screen that would come up. And you would have a number of different choices that you could choose. If you want the annual reports, you would look for the 10Ks. But if you'll notice, it has both documents and interactive data. Prior to 2009, when the first companies were required by the SEC to be tagged with XBRL, all you had access to was stagnant PDF documents. So let me see if I can go back far enough. Let's go prior to 2008. Let's see what comes up. So we should have, no, it didn't come up here. But if you went to 2008, you would be able to see, let's go ahead and click on this document and see if we can find it. You've got XBRL and you've got HTML, and you would have just a stagnant PDF where you wouldn't be able to interact with it. So let's see what we get if we go right here. And here's what we've got. This is a stagnant PDF. This is what all financial documents used to look like prior to 2009. And you will see it resembles what is currently available for us when we look at a government report. But this is what you got. This is all you got. So if you wanted to find something, you had to find a way to search through all of this information. You couldn't click on it and make it interactive as we are now used to with the internet. You had to depend on the stagnant information. So if we go back a page and we look at the you can see it's now tagged with Xbrl, but let's go to a more recent version of this. Let's go to the interactive data of the 10K, and this should come up. Yes, this is the classic version. So prior to the release of the Xbrl, which I will show you next, for about 10 years, from 2009 to about 2019, right about there, this is what we got once documents were tagged with XBRL. So remember, we just showed you the basic PDF on the screen. Now I'm showing you what the first iteration of XBRL looked like. So instead of everything just being stagnant information, you can see if we click on it, suddenly within each of these terms, within each number, we got definitions to tell us where the information came from, what was included in it. We could see details such as the taxonomy, the hierarchy of information that is presented in an XBRL document. We could see the registrant's name. Apple tells us what kind of the registrant. You see entity filer category, large accelerated filer. This is a company which has a market capitalization of over 700 million. These are the largest filers with the SEC, and there are different categories. So we can see right here, this is how they registered with the SEC. So some of this is pretty detailed financial information, but you can see instead of having that PDF, we start to have everything coded with a background. Like if you think of this as a barcoding, if you have a can of soup from the store and you scan it through, that scanner is reading, that barcode is saying, okay, this is Campbell's soup, it's Campbell's vegetable beef soup, it's Campbell's vegetable beef soup, which was shipped out of Portland, Oregon. It gives us a lot of background information. That's what XBRL does. It gives us background information about what we're seeing for face value. That's exact same thing. If you look at the financial statements, it gives us, we're able to sort for the financial statements. It's exactly what we're looking for without having to scan through a complete PDF document. So let's take a look at the balance sheet. The balance sheet is what tells us what are the current assets and non-current assets, current and non-current liabilities, and equity. It tells us basically what does the company own, what does it have that it likes, that it uses to generate money, how much debt is held against all of these assets, and then what is it that is left for those who own the company. What is the remaining equity? If you take all of your assets, subtract out the liabilities or debt, what remains for the shareholders, the owners of the company? So not only does it give us the balance sheet where we can search by simply clicking one of these, if we go ahead and click on the terms under the assets, it tells us the background of what makes up cash and cash equivalents according to Apple Computer. If we click on other current liabilities, what types of current liabilities? So it made it not only easy to search, but XBRL gave us background information about these different terms. So it made it that much easier to use. And then one of the primary things that it did that really helps for creditors, investors, let's say that you want to get all this information and you want to compare it to another company. We could go and click right up here, View Excel Document. And the Excel document, I want to make sure this is going to pull up the the right document. Let's go ahead and share the screen. It now takes all that data that you just saw in the SEC website, and it has downloaded it all into Excel for us. So we are able to actually do comparisons from one company to another in a way that we can perform a ratio analysis. We could now take, if we had another company, we could put it side by side for comparisons, and we can take a look at everything very easily. And it's all machine readable. The data we saw in the SEC is machine readable. So that is why it could be downloaded. You cannot do that in a PDF. The PDF, the only way to get information from one system to the other, as was mentioned in the previous video that Charlie Hoffman and the others were talking about, is you had to manually enter it. And when I show you government reporting, I'll show you what I mean. But when you have everything easily downloadable into Xbrl, if you want to do a ratio analysis, say that you want to see what are the net sales and the gross margin, what is the percentage? Let's say that we want to take the growth. What percentage is the gross margin of net sales? We can see that the gross margin is 43.3% of net sales. You cannot do that if you have a stagnant PDF. And that way, if you wanted to compare Apple to, say, another computer company, then you could see what was the gross margin from what their net sales were. And without getting into too much of the accounting detail, you can clearly see that having this available to you in Excel makes the analysis of the information not only easier, but less subject to error, because the machines are transferring the data, not humans who can make mistakes. So that was another really amazing attribute of Xbrl, was the machine readability that allowed you to transfer data. So let's go ahead and take one more jump now with Xbrl, and I'm going to go ahead and share the screen again. And if you see where we see search the next generation of the Edgar system, well, remember I showed you the screen that said, let's go to the classic version. Now we can go to the next generation and we can take a look at it. So let's go ahead and enter into Apple again. And we're going to go ahead and remember, this was the screen I showed you first. I took you out to the classic version, the older version. Now we're to the newest version of Xbrl. And not only can you look at the financial statements in the types of information I showed you, if I go ahead and click on the 10K report, the annual report, not only is Xbrl now embedded in those financial statements on the number, it is embedded on all of the reporting information that you would find in a 10K. So it's called inline Xbrl, and you can see a number of different terms are identified with the information that basically serves like a barcoding that gives you background information. You can see the employer identification number, and it gives you information concerning that. Where is the company incorporated? It tells you it's in California. It gives you information concerning the common stock, background information concerning common stock. And as you scroll through it, there you can see that there's many facets of the report that are tagged. Basically, they have an underlay of information that resides beneath what you see to get more information. It also means that this information is machine readable and thus exportable. So if we continue on, we can see that the whole 10K is now subject to an index, so you can look for what it is you're wanting to look for. Anything from whether or not the company is involved in any legal proceedings, all you have to do is click on it, and it can give you the information concerning any legal proceedings. It gives you the graphs and information. But if we go back, let's go ahead and scroll back to the top. I'll show you another feature of the inline. Anyway, you can go ahead and you could explore this and look at it. Of course, there's the financial statements, just like you had with the classic version. One of the things that is interesting with the inline Xbrl that the classic version didn't. If you remember in the classic version, I would click on the words and it would give you background information. That is found in another area. But here in the inline, you click on the numbers and it gives you more of the background information concerning the numbers. And that is certainly a very interesting attribute of the inline XBRL. Another thing which makes the inline XBRL very interesting and really usable is this search facts. So if you notice over here for the number of facts in this Apple 10K, they have tagged 1,168 facts. But let's say I don't want to look at 1,168. I just want to look at facts concerning litigation. I'm trying to see who's suing Apple. If I click on litigation and I go search, you can see there's only one fact tagged with litigation. So it goes commitments and contingencies. It finds it for me. I can click on it. There it is. And it highlights it. Where can I find information concerning any litigation that Apple is currently involved with, or if they have any type of a situation where they are afraid that they may lose a lot of value due to potential pending litigation outcomes. But you can do any type of search. Let's go ahead and look at another one. Let's go ahead and look at, let's go for accounts receivable. We want to know information about their accounts receivable. What comes up if I do that search? They say that there are 7 facts concerning the accounts receivable. So depending what I wanted to look at, I can pull up, and here you see accounts receivable net. I can find out information about the accounts receivable. So that is another feature which makes searching in inline XBRL really exciting and really unique. So this is the basis. There's the history of why these individuals, once they realize how internet data could be tagged with XML, they said maybe we could do that with our financial statements. And wouldn't it make it a lot easier for investors and creditors to find information? And we'll make it free. Everybody can have access to this. We'll make it something that anybody can use, any companies can use. We're going to make it open source so that we can make reporting for businesses much more transparent. So if an investor or a creditor wants to do some fact finding on their own, they don't want to pay somebody, a financial advisor, they just want to do a little investigation, we're going to make it so that the information is available at the SEC through Edgar for different types of financial analysis. So any company that is publicly traded is required to report in this manner. So now what's all the hubbub with governmental reporting? Well, this has been in place now. Let's go back to the Edgar landing place. This has been in place, Edgar, with this type of reporting, where it is now tagged so that it is easily searchable in the SEC, as well as downloadable, exportable into Excel, able to do comparison. This has been available since 2009. It's been a phased-in approach. And at the beginning, a lot of individuals complained about this. They said it's going to be too hard, it's going to be too expensive, it's just too much. We don't want to do it. Well, let's move forward now to 2019, 2020, and we've seen how useful this is for publicly traded companies and for investors and creditors to be able to get information that they need concerning decisions they need to make. Well, now we are looking at it and saying, this has been advanced far enough. This has been advanced long enough, and it isn't that expensive. We've come up with ways and means to make this not that difficult, not that expensive. Why don't the governments do this as well? Why can't we make government reports and have the transparency of these reports, the searchability, the comparability be as easy as it is with publicly traded companies? In the next video, I'm going to show you what government reports look like compared to what you saw. Let's go ahead and just take one more quick look at this. This is the Apple 10K. In government reporting, they're called ACFRs. annual comprehensive financial reports. That's basically the same as the 10K for a publicly traded company. I'm going to show you an ACFR, and you can see the difference of what it's like to try to search for data in a governmental report as it is in a publicly traded company. And I'll explain why it is important that the government reporting be as transparent as it is for these publicly traded companies.